I'm Jan Saragoni. This week's Power Player interview will be with Jim Gordon, founder and president of Cape Wind. Jim will talk about his decade-long battle to bring wind power and windmills off the shores of Cape Cod. Why has it taken so long for us to do what many say is the obvious thing, harness the wind?
Well, you know, in Europe, they've been doing offshore wind farms since 1990. So over 20 years they've been doing this, and it's really a booming industry in the United Kingdom, in Denmark, France, Japan, all over the world. China has offshore wind farms. There's been some politically influential people with a lot of money that have started a very small but vocal opposition group. So they've kind of dogged the project for about 10 years.
Jimmy, those of us who have followed the issue and followed you and your personal commitment to making this project happen have been struck by the amount of coverage, national, international, of this. In fact, I'm thinking now of a recent documentary that came out, Cape Spin. We were talking earlier about the Daily Show, no less than the Daily Show, did a very, I think, amusing satire on the opposition.
Right there?
They're quite visible.
Oh, dear God. Jesus. You know, sometimes as a journalist, there's things that you have to show the world that you wish you hadn't seen yourself. Let's cut this, guys.
Have you been surprised by the scope and the enthusiasm of media coverage?
Jan, I think everybody likes a David and Goliath story. And frankly, this opposition group is funded by the coal and oil industry. And they've plowed millions and millions of dollars in trying to create fear-mongering propaganda, to misinform people about the impacts and benefits of this project. Right now, we're raining coal emissions, oil emissions down on the water. You know, this is an area that's most susceptible to the impacts of climate change. So Cape Wind is really about transitioning away from fossil fuels that harm our environment, our national security, our economic prosperity, and really moving to a cleaner energy future.
What do your critics say? What arguments have they put forth to try to thwart your plans?
Well, first it was the whales, and then Greenpeace, which has protected whales since their inception, came out and supported the project. Then it was the birds, and Massachusetts Audubon Society, they support the project. And the irony is, it's almost a biblical irony here, Jan, because climate change is real. I mean, extreme heat, droughts, you know, West Nile disease, all of these things that are coming from climate change are really going to impact their properties.
Talk about what people will see from the shore. Beachgoers on Cape Cod, will they see the windmills?
Well, if you were standing on the nearest beach and looked out on the horizon, and it would really have to be a clear day, you would see what would appear to be almost half-inch sailing masts on the horizon. I mean, one of the reasons of going offshore is to mitigate the visual impact for those folks that don't necessarily like the way that wind turbines look.
People who watched the senatorial debate between Elizabeth Warren and Scott Brown heard a bit about their different views on alternate energy. Were you surprised by what either of the candidates said?
Well, you know, I was surprised that Scott Brown would oppose this project, because if he really is for creating jobs, if he really is for creating a healthier environment and all of the above approach, I was surprised at that. This is really an exciting hotbed of work in research in oceanography, marine sciences and engineering and design. We're going to bring 50 jobs for operations and maintenance. During the construction phase, we're going to create 600 to 1,000 new jobs. And this is just going to be the first offshore project. There are going to be many other offshore wind projects built up and down the East Coast.
Kids, get out of the water! For the love of God, it's going to ruin the aesthetic of the Cape! Get out